Germany are here, and it's going to be very interesting with all the chatter that's been going around, Hugh, to now see what they can do. The word was that they didn't come to Linz because they were not in any sort of form. It hasn't been convincing here so far. They had to get into this via the repechage, whereas the Germany of last year would have gone in directly. So we're about to find out. Switzerland, coached by Britain's Tim Foster, who's on his own mission, and he's the man looking after the Swiss 8 that finished 9th in Linz and 8th in the World Championships last year. Changes, of course. And then Germany in lane 2, Torsten Engelmann, one of the significant men, but I think Bernd Heindecker is the man that they're really missing in that 8. And then Great Britain. Now, there are 2 Great Britain crews, and this is the Jürgen Grobler Fun Experimentation crew with Steve Williams in the stroke seat, Matt Langridge and Andrew Triggs-Hodge, and we'll go through them for you a little later. Poland in lane number 4, who also qualified directly into this final. And then China, who've been the ever-present force in just about everything this afternoon. And Great Britain's number 1-8, and it's been very, very, very clear to them that this is not a competitive situation, although how it could not be a competitive situation I can't fathom out between the 2 crews, because the nature of the beast is that these are both very competitive outfits which contain very competitive people.
But the Great Britain normal 8, which is over here on lane 6, closest to camera, Josh West in picture there, is going to have its work cut out over here on this side, which has been proved slower in almost every event that we've watched this afternoon.
But why are they in lane 6?
And because they had to qualify through the reps.
Yeah, and they didn't go quite quickly enough to get a faster lane. But away we go, and there...
That's the Steve Williams version with Matt Langridge at 7 and Hodge at 6.
In the blonde hair.
5, absolutely. And they are the fastest qualifier to the final, blew through Switzerland in the last 500 metres for their heat to make it straight to the final. And there we have Colin Smith, certainly the smallest man in this event, in the 2 seat. James Orman, Marcus Bateman, arguably not quite of the same standard as the 4 in front of them, world champions and unbeaten over 2,000 metres. It is interesting that Peter Reid in the 5 seat has never lost over 2,000 metres, and he's putting all of that extraordinary record at risk here today. Robin Bourne-Taylor at 7 in the normal 8, with Tom Parker in the stroke seat. But here we're back on the 4 made into an 8 with Steve Williams, who has stroked the 4 in training and pairs in training, so he's got a background, and he's also stroked the Leander 8 in the head on several occasions, so he's got a bit of a record, and he's taken GBR2 through 1,000 metres ahead of GBR1. So we've got GBR1 and 2, but in lane 6 they've got their work cut out to hang on to this crew. There's Peter Reid, as I say, never lost over 2,000 metres, and
Coxon is Phelan Hill for Great Britain 2. Coxon Asa Nethercott of University Boat Race fame for Great Britain 1. And of course, there's no doubt, Steve Williams, all those men in that boat, they were just quite simply, Hugh, they want to win this.
Well, everybody does, but they've got more
but there's
lung power and muscle power at their disposal.
Yeah.
And the idea that you've got someone like Matt Langridge, he could have stroked it, Colin Smith could have stroked it. They've got about 6 strokes in that crew, and that's why it's in front.
And I suppose...
Orman, Bateman in picture now. Orman on the right, Bateman on the left. They're the new boys at this level, but they've got a deal of experience in front of them. They've just got to sit there and enjoy themselves.
And you don't think there's never going to be a temptation to double them up?
No. That's not Jürgen. Jürgen is completely ruthless. This is for the benefit of the 4. The pair would have been better off staying in their pair, but they've been made to do this because although they've only had a days together when they won in Linz. They're not allowed to do this because the 4 needs a rest and needs a break. They're getting the break. Good luck to them. But this is just a mechanism whereby Jürgen's crew is maintained in given its best chance of a gold medal that it can get.
So it is Great Britain 2 from Great Britain 1, China, and then Switzerland over in lane 1 on the far side. And remember, Germany, we talked about them, we talked about our concern that they weren't the force that they were last year. They're in lane 2, they're right next to Switzerland, and Switzerland and Germany, very, very little to separate them, maybe 0.2 of a second. And it is Great Britain, and there is Steve Williams, and then Matt Langridge, Triggs Hodge with the blonde hair, Peter Reid, Marcus Bateman is the man who's come in to make up the 8 with James Orme, and then Colin Smith and Alex Partridge, the bow pair, and Great Britain and China having a real ding-dong.
That's it, China coming up. They've been edging their way back on Great Britain 1, which, being in lane 6, was always at a disadvantage, and it is China now who look like they're in silver medal position, with Great Britain 1 fairly unassailable at the speed that 8s move in the gold medal position, coming up to 1,500 metres. But that's a lot to take back a length.
It's very interesting, though. China and Great Britain, you could say they either have the same advantage or disadvantage, whichever way you look at it, because they are actually racing on very level terms in lanes 5 and 6.
They are, yes, broadly. The British crew lacks the real meat. There's Tom Stallard in the 2-seat. What it hasn't got is Josh West is very tall in lane in the 5th seat. That's him in 5 there, with Richard Edgington and Robin Bourne-Taylor in front of him. But Bourne-Taylor is a small athlete for a big 8, and he's in the 7th seat. We could do with a bit more meat in that crew, but they're being edged at the moment by China. Which way is it going to go? Hard to say.
Well, no question about who's going to win this, Stu. It's going to be this Great Britain number 2-8, which at the moment has got a really significant advantage, and they are not going to be taken. China, the angle therefore shortening, is suggesting that China is actually closing up on the Great Britain 2-8, but that's actually not the case. But they are getting the better of the argument here with Great Britain 1. Now 100 metres to go, and it is the Great Britain 2 crew who are going to come home to take this victory. China closing very rapidly on the Great Britain 2 crew, and there is just a whisker of hope for China, but Great Britain get there ahead of China, then Great Britain 1 ahead of Germany, with Switzerland, and finally coming home will be Poland. Well, in the end here it was a lot closer between Great Britain and but it isn't Poland, it's actually China in second place.
China lost its cocks just there, standing up and making a bit of a fuss about that. Very, very pleased with that silver medal, and also very pleased to have closed so much on the Great Britain 1 crew. That's the Great Britain, sorry, that's the
number 1
standard 8, which finished 3rd, we think. Yes, indeed, it's now got a confirmed result, 1.75 seconds adrift, with it's still given us Poland when in fact it was China that finished. They've still got that wrong on the...
Yeah. What's your assessment of that, Hugh? Were the British 8 running out of gas or just easing off?
No, the Chinese crew went up to a much higher rate and had a finishing burst, which is clearly very well rehearsed. Yeah. And they just used their weapon at the very last bit, but I don't think that... And they came up very rapidly, but I don't think the 4 and the pair and the spare pair made into an 8 were going to lose that race. And they're not going to race again in an 8, so they don't need to practice the moves, they don't need to do anything else. They just rode a very efficient race, but without any special weapons in the locker.
And clearly, Germany with a lot to resolve. The defending world champions have got a lot